Today we're going to be replacing the power steering rack on Renegade in preparation for the trip down to the States. It has a little bit of a leak up by the steering column, and so I'm going to be replacing it with a remanufactured one, and instead of trying to rebuild it. Time-wise, cost-wise, it's more effective just to change it for me. All right, stay tuned. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Alright, so here's the new power steering rack. Where it looks like it's leaking on the truck is from right up in here, which would make sense because all the pressure right here, if it's seeping out of that seal in here, that O-ring, which I have done a little research, and it seems like that's relatively common when these go out, is that it starts leaking out of here or something, which makes sense. So I'm just going to replace this. Should only be a couple bolts, a couple brackets, a little bit difficult to get in, but I took off the tire. I'll have to pop these tie rod ends out, and from there I'll be able to once the tie rod ends are out, I'll be able to, in theory, I'll be able to slide that right out here. Actually, a bracket that goes right here. There's two bolts, and then on this side, on the passenger side, there's actually a bracket that goes over the top with two bolts in it. This bolt also, you need to make sure that the steering wheel is turned to where you can access this bolt. I'll show you that. So on the driver's side here, if you look, let's see. So right up in here, kind of see that bolt right there? Brighten that up maybe. So that bolt is what is holding the steering column to the power steering rack. So you're gonna have to make sure you take that out as well. Make sure it's pointed in a direction where you can access it, and take that off. Now crawling under the truck here, right here, behind the cross member here, there's this bolt here, and that bolt right there that you'll have to take those out for that bracket. And then going a little further, hopefully it didn't make you too sick, right here there's this bolt for the bracket. Well, you can see that, but this bolt right here, there we go. And there's one right on the other side as well that you'll have to take off. First things first, we're gonna want to crack this loose, right? This tie rod end. Want to crack this loose, and then we're gonna take out this clip right here, and then this castle nut or whatever, and we're gonna take that out, and then we're gonna pop that up with the hammer. Pop that out. That way we can unthread this to put on here and get it somewhat back so we can get it to an alignment shop afterwards. Just so I don't forget, this right here, when you're taking this off, this tie rod end, when you're smacking the bottom of this, I totally made a novice amateur mistake. Make sure you leave the bolt on there, or the nut on there. Leave that on there a little ways. So you're smacking the nut, not the threads, because now I have to replace this. I did anyways, because obviously it has a hole in it. I needed to. But that being said, I now have no choice, because even if I was going to be lazy and not buy a new one of these, I have to, because this won't thread on there anymore because I buggered up those threads. So if your boots are good and you want to keep these tie rods, make sure you only loosen it to where, to there. You don't take it all the way off when you're smacking it. All right, so what I did here, sorry, my phone was charging, so apologize for not showing you exactly what I did here. I'll show you on the other side. But this is a 19 mil bolt right here, or excuse me, nut. So you got to take this out, undo this, right? And then I just took a hammer, nailed that out of there, right? Now it's free floating. All right, so a good way to measure this, you could use a tape measure if you want, or you get a general idea. You just hold this like this, and then just mark that right there. So I just marked that like so that when it's butt up right there, it's just right up on that mark. I know that's not perfect, but it should get it straight enough to where I can get it to an alignment shop and they can actually get it aligned. Everything should be coming out pretty easily. Doesn't seem like things are too rusted or seized up. It just depends on how things go with the actual few bolts for those brackets on the power steering rack itself. So now we're going to be doing the other side of the tie rods, and then we'll get onto the power steering bolts. All right, so this bolt here is 14 mil. You just throw your breaker bar on there, and then you should be able to just twist it right off. I just broke it loose. But then I can get a ratchet on there and just ratchet it out real quick. And there's one also right back in there, right here, that I'll need to break loose as well. Okay, so these bolts right here that are holding the power steering rack right there, they are 17 mil. So just get your breaker bar, your 17 mil, get it on there, break it loose. All right. So looking at this, we're gonna jog around here. All right. So we got those other bolts out. That right there, this bolt right here is actually a 10 mil. So just get that on there, like so. And then I have enough room, I can actually take a ratchet and undo that. So that's what I'll do. And then these lines, I believe, right here, those right there, just disconnect those and should slide out. Those two hoses right there. This top one, 17. Bottom one over there, that bottom one, it's a 19. They are choice words. They're very difficult to get out. Nonetheless, you have to be able to get them out. And now I got that disconnected, but I actually had to disconnect from the top going up. I didn't have enough room coming down. So what I did is when I lifted the HRG, or had the HRG lift, they tell you to bend this metal, right? So there's this piece here that connects to that shaft. This is actually able to move up and down if you loosen it. So because I couldn't pull it down far enough, which I don't think anybody can, they have this groove here, this open spot that allows you to move it up. So I loosened that, pulled that up. How you access that is you do have to take this plastic off. It just has a couple clips. There's a couple of these clips here, right? And you just pop those out. Okay, so you get that out of the way. And this thing, this cover, is right here, and it actually has three. It has one on the top, one on this side, and then one at the bottom. You got to take this off to move the carpet, right, to access this bottom one. Then you remove that, loosen this up 10 millimeter, slide it up, and then that's able to just get out of the way. Okay, finally, probably took 45 minutes to an hour from the point I needed to get those hoses off. Sorry if the camera's blurry. My hands are totally oily and crazy. But now it's working its way out. It's almost out. So, oh yeah. Dude, that probably took 45 minutes to an hour. That was ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, I almost gave up. Almost had it towed to some shop. But it's coming. Oh man, look at that. Oh. Ugh. Conquered. Yes. Wow. That took way too long. Holy mackerel. Yeah, there we go. Now it should be a clean shot putting it in, right? Right. All right, folks. It's a day or two later, and we're putting it in. That's what she said. All right, so it's raining outside. Welcome to Alaska in August. And so I put up this makeshift tent out here, or shelter, whatever the heck you want to call it. Canopy, that's the word I was looking for. And we're going to install this, hopefully, smoothly. So this is it. And it's supposed to go, in theory, just slides right down there. Okay, it's taken me about 5 minutes to get it all the way to that point, where all it needs to be sunk in this bracket, which is probably going to be the most difficult thing. But I want to show you a little technique on how I got it in there. It was actually pretty simple to get it all the way fed through. So on this right here, you have the steering column connection joint piece right there, and this is actually going to hit your frame. Looking at it, that hose piece is going to hit this right here. Also, this column is going to hit your frame right here if you try to just go in straight. So you actually have to twist it to where the column, scoot out just a little bit. You have to twist it where the column is out, like in this direction, and that piece, that square piece, you actually feed under this frame piece. So you kind of slide it under this, and as this goes up, as it goes up, you're gonna rotate it into place, and then it'll get to here, and then it seems as though it'll be kind of difficult to get this in there, but now's the time. On the passenger side, there's this clamp right here, right, that will bump into this. So you have to make sure that this is out of the way so that you can push it in. That's what I'm talking about. Man, it's probably taken me 10 minutes after getting the tires off. It took me about 10 minutes to get this thing in there. Man, I'm pumped. Now I just gotta line up the bolts and the grommets and stuff and just bolt it in. The hoses are gonna be the next difficult part because it's hard to get your hands in there and thread them, but I'm excited. Let me show you how I did that. What was happening at first, let's see, there's a rubber grommet. This rubber grommet right here, right in between the frame, you can kind of see it there. That was actually catching on this frame. So what I did was I put one hand essentially right here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Put one hand on this so I can push it, right? But then I put my right hand, my other hand, put it right on top so I could push it to the front of the vehicle to try to help twist it. And then I just shoved it, I just pushed and shoved at the same time, and it slid right in. Hopefully that was helpful. Now I gotta line up these hoses and get them in. Hopefully, for one, they're the right size. But two, that they line up relatively easy and I can just thread them in, but we'll see. All right, we got the tie rod ends on and the hose is connected. So we got these on. The reason why I put these on right now, so I haven't bolted it in on the brackets yet. Reason being is because that steering column connection there, those splines need to be lined up as close as possible to straight. When you pull that apart, it's obviously not lined up straight. So what I did was I took my cardboard that I made, right, the driver's side and passenger side, put the tie rod ends as close as I could, and to keep the splines straight. So now when I go to put this on from the inside, I can line up the steering wheel straight, maybe slightly to the right, but I'll line them up completely as best I can and then put it on there so that when they go to do the alignment, the steering wheel is not sideways when the wheels are actually straight. Man, it is really coming down out there. Really glad I put this canopy up. All right, it is installed. Let me show you how I wrapped this up, what I did, and give you an overview. Okay, where we left off was the steering column. Now, I will tell you this. Make sure you put these on before you get it up in there. If you can put them on when the steering column piece is right here, like right after you slide it in, put these on, that way you don't have to fight it at all. Got this lined up. Took a second to kind of get it lined up. I pushed this top piece, I pushed it down all the way, and then just have to lift this power steering rack up slightly to get that bolt to line up. Slid that in there, bolted it down, bolted the top part of it down, steering column was done. I wanted to get that done before I bolted this rack in, so making sure that it was connected properly and I could lift it. All right, so then I moved on and I made sure I disconnected these completely so they were just floating, and got the bolt holes lined up. On the other side, I'll show you. So before you put any bolts in, be sure to put this rubber grommet in there. This piece right here. This rubber grommet, make sure you put that in there before you start putting any kind of bolts in, because once you start doing that, you won't be able to move this or lift it. Put that in there, and then I just put these bolts, 14 mil or 9/16. Just put these in here hand tight, and then went down to the bolts down here on the power steering rack right there, top and bottom. Put those two in, tighten them down completely as much as I could, and then came back and tightened these completely, and then sunk these in. Make sure you put in the cotter pins. All right, don't want that coming back off. So got brand new tie rod ends, got that, put the cotter pins in, tightened it down real tight, and then they're going to be making adjustments to it, I'm sure. We got that. Just need to make sure you tighten these as well, lock that into place when you're driving it, right? So to get it to the alignment shop, we got to make sure those are tight. And then back at the driver's side, there's a dust shield that HRG sends with their kit. It's like a foam piece that goes right up in here. That way dust doesn't just keep flowing in there. But it'll fill that gap. Get some grass out of there. Make sure all your hoses are tight prior to doing any of this. So all I have to do at this point is fill the reservoir, make sure work the air out, and then put the tires on, and we're done. All right, so what we did is I actually had it jacked up for a little bit and rotated it back and forth until the whining basically ceased. And then what I did is I made sure the tires were on there nice and tight, and then filled the reservoir to the fill mark. And now my brother-in-law, Mike, he's actually helping me. He's spinning the tires. I'm watching for leaks, making sure the reservoir stays full, those kinds of things. But listen, just listen to this. No leaks, no sounds. That's what we like right there. So now we gotta check this reservoir. Yeah, look at that. You can kind of see it. That line's like right, yeah, you see it better right there. It is on a little bit of a hill, so, or a slant. So that's like perfect. Looks like it's holding fluid, and you can't hear her whining, can't hear anything. Man, it's fantastic. Just make sure that when it's jacked up, you twist it back and forth, just like Mike's doing here, to get all the whining out of it. You want to do that before you really start stressing it, because you got all that air that's inside your power steering rack. So make sure that you're doing this prior to putting a load on it, and then once it's gone away, then put a load on it and see how it does. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate it, guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Let me know if this was helpful. Honestly, now that I've done it once, completely all the way through, the most frustrating part was just pulling out the power steering rack. Once that was done, it was actually fairly easy. It's been a few hours, just because, again, it's the first time I'm doing it. If I did it again, it'd probably be half the time. So you could say uninstall and install, if you didn't have to deal with the rain and all this stuff. Probably take 2 to 3 hours, I would guess, for me to do it. I'm not a mechanic by any means. I'm a DIYer, right? I try to figure things out and do it myself, to save money and just to learn. I like doing these kinds of things. So if you're not necessarily wanting to do that, it may be worth paying someone to do a power steering rack. Nonetheless, here's a video for a Honda Ridgeline on how to do the power steering rack. It is able to be done in your backyard, essentially, or in your garage. But yeah, you just have those couple bolts, couple hoses, and then your steering column, and you can pull it out, replace it, put it back in. Definitely could do it within one day if you've never done it before following this video. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you guys' support. We're growing like crazy. I'm excited to get this road trip underway in about a month, going down all the way to Utah, southern Utah, into St. George from Alaska. It's about 3,500 miles. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be taking a lot of dirt roads and back roads and things that I have planned. So stay tuned. Again, like, share, subscribe. Appreciate the support. Check out the apparel on renegadeheadquarters.com, or go to Patreon and contribute directly to support the channel, keep these episodes going, and adventures rolling. I appreciate it, guys. We'll talk to you on the next one. We'll see you.